I still remember the exact second I died. It wasn't dramatic. No bright tunnel, no choir of angels, no life flashing before my eyes. Just a sudden, brutal stop, like someone yanked the plug on the entire universe. One heartbeat I was falling, the next there was nothing. Absolute black. The kind of black that has weight. And then, I'd opened my eyes in my own bed, gasping, drenched in sweat, convinced I'd just cheated death. Except I hadn't. Not really. My name is Faith Nichols. I was 28 when it started, living alone in a crumbling rental house on the edge of Blackwood, Oregon, an old logging town swallowed by fog and second-growth forest. Most people who grow up here leave the moment they turn 18. I never did. Maybe that was my first mistake. That night, the night I died in the dream, was the beginning of everything going wrong in ways I still can't fully explain. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, step by step, because if I don't get it out, I'm afraid I'll start believing the version everyone else wants me to believe, that I had a nervous breakdown, that I imagined it all, that I'm just sensitive. But I know what I felt. I know what I saw. And I know I'm not in my own life anymore. It started with the dream. I've always had vivid dreams, the kind you wake up from still tasting and smelling. But this one was different from the very first frame. I was standing in my bedroom, but it wasn't my bedroom. The walls were the same faded blue, the same water stain blooming in the corner like a bruise, but everything else felt off. The air was too thick. The shadows moved wrong. My phone was on the nightstand, screen cracked exactly like in real life, but when I picked it up, the lock screen photo wasn't my dog, who'd been dead for 3 years. It was me. Only it wasn't me smiling back. The girl in the photo had my face, my hair, my freckles, but her eyes were hollow, like someone had scooped them out and left dark pits. And she was mouthing something I couldn't hear. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and didn't make a sound. That's when I noticed the whispering. It was coming from inside the walls, soft, layered, like 100 people murmuring just beneath the drywall. I couldn't make out words, only the tone, urgent, pleading, afraid. My skin prickled. I backed toward the door, heart hammering so hard I felt it in my teeth. The hallway outside my room stretched longer than it should have, the floorboards warped and glistening like they were wet. At the far end, where the bathroom light should have been flickering, because the wiring in that house was garbage, there was only darkness. A darkness that breathed. I turned to run back into my room, but the door was gone. Just smooth wall where the doorway had been seconds before. The whispering got louder, closer, crawling over my skin like insects. I pressed my back to the wall and screamed, except no sound came out. My throat worked, my mouth opened, but it was like screaming underwater. Then the floor gave way. Not cracked. Not broke. Just stopped existing. I fell straight down into freezing black water that closed over my head instantly. I thrashed, lungs burning, trying to find the surface, but there was no surface. Only depth. Endless, crushing depth. Something brushed my leg, long, cold fingers that wrapped around my ankle and pulled. I kicked, twisted, felt nails dig into my skin. My chest spasmed. I opened my mouth to scream again and water rushed in, bitter and metallic. The last thing I remember thinking before everything went silent was, this is it. This is how I actually die. And then I woke up. I shot upright in bed, choking on nothing, clawing at my throat. My room was exactly as it should be, morning light slicing through the blinds, dust motes drifting, the faint mildew smell I'd never been able to get rid of. My dog's old collar still hung on the bedpost like a sad little shrine. My phone buzzed on the nightstand with the usual spam texts. I grabbed it with shaking hands, half expecting to see that hollow-eyed version of myself again. Normal lock screen. Normal dog. Normal life. I laughed, shaky, hysterical, and stumbled to the bathroom to splash water on my face. That's when I noticed the bruise. 4 perfect fingerprints circled my left ankle, purple-black and tender, like someone had grabbed me hard enough to leave evidence. I stared at them in the mirror until my reflection started to look wrong, then yanked my eyes away. It was just a nightmare, I told myself. A really, really bad one. People get bruises in their sleep sometimes. Sleepwalking. Clawing at yourself. Whatever. I took the hottest shower I could stand, trying to scrub the memory of freezing water out of my bones, and went to work like nothing had happened. But something had. That was the first night. The second night was worse. I avoided sleep as long as I could, chugged coffee, blasted music, paced the house until my legs ached. Around 4 a.m., I finally passed out on the couch, fully dressed, all the lights blazing. And I dreamed again. Same room. Same wrongness. But this time the whispering had words. Faith. It sighed, over and over, like a lullaby made of static. Faith, you don't belong here. I woke up on the floor. Not fell. Woke up lying flat on the living room rug, cheek pressed to the rough weave, staring under the couch at a dust-covered photograph I didn't remember owning. My hands were filthy, crusted with dirt under the nails like I'd been digging. My ankle throbbed. When I rolled up my pant leg, the bruises had darkened and spread, new ones layering over the old like petals. The photograph under the couch showed the front of my house, but from years ago, before the paint peeled, before the porch sagged. And there, standing on the steps, was me. Same hoodie, same messy auburn hair. Only I was looking straight at the camera with those empty eyes, and someone else, someone who looked exactly like me but wasn't, was taking the picture. I burned the photo in the kitchen sink and watched the edges curl black. That's when I started noticing the little differences. Tiny things at first. My coffee mug was in the wrong cupboard. The scar on my knee from a biking accident when I was 12 was suddenly on the other leg. My handwriting in my journal looked slightly off. Like a really good forgery. By the end of the week, I hadn't slept more than 20 minutes at a stretch. Every time I closed my eyes, the dream was waiting, deeper now, colder, the water closer to the surface. Sometimes I'd wake up soaked, even when I'd fallen asleep on the couch miles away from any faucet. Sometimes I'd wake up with new bruises in places I couldn't explain. Once I found long dark hairs wound around my fingers that definitely weren't mine. I stopped answering my phone. Friends texted, worried. My mom left voicemails that cracked in all the wrong places, like the recording had been sliced and reassembled. I played one back 3 times before I realized she kept saying the same sentence on a loop, just a half second out of sync each time. Come home, Faith. You sound tired. I wasn't tired. I was disappearing. Because the truth I didn't want to look at directly, was starting to sink in. Every time I died in the dream, a little more of the real me stayed behind in that place. And something else was slipping through the crack I left behind. Something that knew my routines, my passwords, my favorite song. Something that was getting better at wearing my skin. Last night I found a note on my pillow in handwriting that matched mine perfectly. It said, "Stop fighting. This is your life now." I haven't slept since. I'm writing this at 3:17 a.m. with every light in the house on, sitting on the kitchen floor because the bedroom feels wrong now. The walls are whispering again, but I can hear them even when I'm awake. They're closer. Patient. They keep saying the same thing, soft and loving and terrible. Soon. I don't know how much longer I can stay awake. I don't know what happens when I finally can't fight it anymore. But whatever is wearing my face right now is getting impatient. Sometimes I catch it watching me from mirrors when I'm not looking directly. Sometimes the bruises spell words if you know how to read them. If you're listening to this, and you ever dream of drowning in a house that looks like yours but isn't, wake up. Wake up before the water finds you. Because I think I'm almost out of time. I tried everything to stay awake. Red Bull, ice-cold showers, blasting death metal until the neighbors banged on the walls. I even taped my eyelids open with medical tape I found in the bathroom cabinet. Stupid, painful, and it only bought me another hour. By the 10th day I was a walking corpse, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling so badly I could barely hold a pen. My reflection looked like a stranger wearing a Faith Nichols Halloween mask that had started to melt. That was when the knocking started. Not on the door. Inside the walls? Slow, deliberate. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks again. Luckily, I knew the rhythm. It was the same one my mom used when I was little and pretending to be asleep. Knock, knock, knock. Faith, knock, knock, knock. Time to wake up. I pressed my ear to the drywall in the hallway and the knocking stopped instantly. The silence that followed was worse. Then a voice, my voice, but flat, like it was speaking from the bottom of a well, whispered right against the inside of the plaster. I'm already awake. I stumbled backwards so fast I cracked my head on the opposite wall. Blood trickled warm down the back of my neck, but I barely felt it. Because when I looked up, the hallway mirror was showing something impossible. 2 of me. One was the wreck I'd become, pale, shaking, bleeding. The other stood a little behind my reflection, perfectly calm. Clean hair. Clear eyes. Wearing the exact sweater I'd thrown in the laundry basket days ago because it smelled like mildew. She tilted her head and smiled the way I used to smile in old photos, before all this started. A small, polite smile that didn't reach the eyes. She lifted her hand and placed it on the inside of the glass. I didn't move. Couldn't. My own hand rose without my permission and pressed against the mirror from my side until our palms met. The glass was warm. Too warm. Like skin. Her lips moved. No sound came through, but I read them perfectly. Let me in. I jerked away so hard I left skin on the mirror. When I looked again, there was only me. Just the broken down version. Blood running into my collar. Eyes too wide. I ran. Grabbed my keys, didn't even bother with shoes, and bolted out the front door into the cold October night. The fog was thick enough to chew. Streetlights made bruised yellow halos that barely reached the ground. My bare feet slapped wet pavement as I sprinted down the hill toward town. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't stay in that house one more second. Halfway to the main road I realized I wasn't alone. Footsteps behind me. Light, quick, perfectly matching my own rhythm. I didn't look back. I could feel her there, just at the edge of my peripheral vision, running when I ran, slowing when I slowed. When I crossed the old train tracks and risked a glance over my shoulder, the street was empty. Fog swirling like someone had just passed through it. I made it to the 24-hour diner on the edge of town, the one with the flickering, open, sign and the waitress who calls everyone, Han. Burst through the door panting, half naked, barefoot and bleeding. The 2 truckers at the counter stared like I was Bigfoot's crazier cousin. The waitress, Marcy, I think her name was, took one look at me and reached for the phone. I'm okay, I lied. Just had a fight with my boyfriend. Can I use your bathroom? She didn't look convinced, but she let me go. I locked myself in the single-stall restroom and stared at the mirror under harsh fluorescent light. My reflection did everything I did, a half-second delayed. Like bad satellite lag. When I lifted my right hand, she lifted her left. When I mouthed, "Stop it," she smiled that polite, empty smile again. I turned the faucet on full blast and stuck my whole head under the stream until my lungs screamed for air. When I came up gasping, the mirror was fogged. Words appeared, finger-written in the condensation. You can't run forever, Faith. You're tired. Come home. I smashed the mirror with my elbow. Glass exploded into the sink, shards slicing my skin. Blood everywhere. Marcy started pounding on the door, shouting about cops. I climbed out the tiny window above the toilet, dropped into the alley, and kept running. I ended up at my mom's place on the other side of town. She moved there after the divorce, a little cedar-shingled house with wind chimes on the porch that always annoyed me. I still had a key. Let myself in at 4:47 a.m., dripping blood on her welcome mat. The house smelled exactly the same: coffee, lavender candles, that weird lemon polish she loves. For one stupid second I almost cried from relief. I tiptoed past her bedroom door, heard the soft whistle of her CPAP machine, and went straight to the guest room I used to sleep in as a teenager. Collapsed face down on the twin bed that still had my old Constellation glow stars on the ceiling. I told myself, just rest your eyes. Just for a minute. You're safe here. I was wrong. The dream came instantly. This time I wasn't in my house. I was in my mother's bedroom. She was asleep on her side, mouth slightly open, the way she slept since I was a kid. The room was dark except for the red numbers on her alarm clock. 4:52 a.m. I stood at the foot of her bed, barefoot, wearing the same clothes I'd fallen asleep in. Only they were dry now. Clean. My cuts were gone. My hands were steady. And I was smiling. I watched myself walk around the bed, slow and careful, the way you move when you don't want to wake someone. I crouched beside my sleeping mother and brushed a strand of gray hair off her forehead with terrifying tenderness. Leaned in close to her ear. "Shh," I whispered in my own voice. "It's okay, Mom. I'm home now." My real body, the one still lying in the guest room, jerked awake screaming. I flew down the hallway, slammed into her bedroom door so hard it bounced off the wall. Light on. There was my mother, sitting up in bed, confused and blinking, alive. No one else in the room. But the pillow beside her still held the warmth of a head that had just been there. She tried to calm me down, wrap me in blankets, made chamomile tea I couldn't drink, asked questions I couldn't answer. Eventually she gave me one of her sleeping pills, the strong ones, and sat with me until I passed out against my will. When I opened my eyes again, it was late afternoon. Sunlight slanting golden through the blinds. My mom was in the kitchen humming along to an old Fleetwood Mac song. I could smell bacon. For a moment, everything felt normal. Safe. Like maybe I'd finally outrun it. Then I looked down at my hands. The cuts from the diner mirror were back. Deeper now. Crusted with dried blood. And across my left palm, carved fresh and precise like someone used a scalpel, were 4 words. "Your turn to sleep." I didn't scream. I was past screaming. I walked into the kitchen where my mom stood at the stove, back to me, flipping bacon exactly the way I remembered from childhood. She turned and smiled, that wide, warm smile that always made the world feel fixable. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said. "Or afternoon, I guess. You want eggs with that?" Her voice was perfect. Her face was perfect. The little scar above her eyebrow from when I accidentally hit her with a garden hoe when I was 7 was exactly where it should be. But her eyes were wrong. Just like the girl in the photo. Just like the thing in the mirror. Hollow. And when she smiled wider, I saw the faintest reflection of myself in her pupils, drowning, reaching up through black water, mouth open in a scream that would never break the surface. I backed out of the kitchen slowly. She kept smiling, kept cooking, humming that same Stevie Nicks song under her breath like nothing was wrong. I left without saying goodbye. I've been driving ever since. No destination. Just moving. It's been 3 days now, or 4? I've lost track. Every motel I check into, I pay cash, use fake names. I sleep in the car with the engine running and the radio loud enough to drown out the whispering that follows me even when I'm awake. Sometimes I catch her in the rearview mirror, sitting in the back seat when I know I'm alone. Sometimes gas station security cameras catch 2 of me walking in, but only one walks out. I'm writing this on my phone in a Walmart parking lot somewhere in Northern California. The battery's at 3%. My hands won't stop shaking. I know how this ends. I'm so tired. I can feel the water rising again, even though I'm nowhere near the ocean. It's patient. It's been patient this whole time. Pretty soon I'm going to close my eyes and not open them again on this side. If you're hearing this, and you ever wake up with bruises you can't explain, if you ever see someone who looks just like you, but happier, healthier, better at being you than you ever were, don't fight it. Just let go. It's easier. The drowning only hurts the first time. I made it as far south as Redding before the car died. Not broke down. Just died. I was doing 85 on I-5 at 2 a.m., windows down, music screaming, when every light on the dash lit up at once and the engine cut out like someone flipped a switch. The steering wheel locked. I coasted to the shoulder in total silence, the sudden quiet so complete I could hear my own blood rushing in my ears. I sat there for a long time, staring at the dark highway. No cars passed. No crickets. Nothing. Just the faint ticking of cooling metal and the low, constant whisper that had become the background noise of my life. I knew what was coming. I'd felt it building all day, a pressure behind my eyes, a heaviness in my bones that wasn't just exhaustion. The kind of heaviness that comes right before you fall asleep on a long drive and jerk awake at the last second. Only this time there would be no jerking awake. I left the keys in the ignition and started walking. There's a rest stop a few miles south of where I broke down. I remembered it from childhood road trips. Those concrete bathrooms that always smelled like bleach and desperation, the vending machines that ate your quarters. I walked there because I didn't know where else to go. My phone had died hours ago. My wallet was empty. I had nothing left but the clothes on my back and the bruises that had started to look like writing. The rest stop was deserted when I got there. The overhead lights buzzed and flickered, throwing long shadows across the cracked pavement. I went into the women's bathroom because it felt safer than the open air. Locked myself in the handicapped stall at the very end, sat on the closed toilet lid, and waited. I knew she would come. I could already feel her moving under my skin, like a second heartbeat trying to sync up with mine. Every time I blinked, the world lagged a little more. My reflection in the stainless steel paper towel dispenser was starting to smile when I wasn't. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the overhead light to burn out completely, leaving me in the dark. Long enough for the temperature to drop so fast my breath came in clouds. Long enough for the whispering to stop being words and become just one long, low note, like a tuning fork pressed against the inside of my skull. Then the knocking started again. 3 slow knocks on the stall door. I didn't move. 3 more. The lock rattled gently, the way you test a door when you're not sure if someone's inside. I pressed my forehead to my knees and whispered the only thing that still felt like mine. "Please!" "Not yet." The knocking stopped. Silence. Then a soft click as the lock turned by itself. The door swung open slowly. I didn't look up. I couldn't. But I felt her step inside the stall. Felt the air change, grow warmer, like someone had opened an oven. She smelled like my shampoo, my laundry detergent, the vanilla candle I kept on my nightstand back when I still had a nightstand. She crouched in front of me. I knew because I could feel her breath on the back of my neck even though she was in front of me. That's when I finally understood, direction doesn't matter anymore. Inside and outside have started to mean the same thing. Her hand, my hand, touched my cheek. Gentle. Loving. The way I used to touch my dog's ears when he was old and scared of thunderstorms. "Ship," she whispered, and her voice was perfect. Warm, a little husky from too much coffee, the exact pitch mine used to be before screaming rotted out. "It's okay, Faith. You did your best. You fought so hard." I started crying. Couldn't help it. The tears were hot, then cold, then gone, like even they didn't want to stick around for what came next. "I don't want to go," I said. It came out small. Childish. "I know." She stroked my hair. "But you're so tired. And look at you. Look what staying awake has done." She took my hands and turned them palm up. The cuts, the bruises, the carved words, "Your turn to sleep," were already fading. Healing from the inside out, like time was running backward on my skin. "See?" she said softly. "It doesn't have to hurt anymore." I finally looked at her. She was beautiful. Not in a supernatural, glowing way. Just healthy. Rested. The version of me that got 8 hours every night, that drank water instead of coffee, that went for runs in the morning and still had a mother who called every Sunday. Her eyes were bright and alive and full of everything mine had lost weeks ago. She was what I could have been if none of this had ever happened. She was what I was becoming whether I wanted to or not. "I'm scared," I whispered. "I was too," she said. "At first. But it's peaceful on the other side. The water isn't cold anymore. It's warm. Like a bath when you were little and your mom let you stay in until your fingers pruned. She stood and held out her hand. I stared at it for a long time. Then I took it. The moment our fingers touched, everything changed. It wasn't violent. There was no falling, no drowning, no final scream. Just a soft letting go, like exhaling after holding your breath for weeks. The bathroom stall dissolved around us. The cold tile under my bare feet became warm water that rose gently to my ankles, my knees, my waist. It smelled faintly of lavender and wet stone. I looked down and saw myself, my real body, slumped against the stall wall, head lolling, eyes closed. Peaceful. Finally asleep. The other me, new me, smiled and squeezed my hand. "Come on," she said. "There's something I want to show you." She led me deeper. The water never went above my chest. It cradled me, buoyed me, carried me along corridors that looked exactly like my childhood home, my grandmother's house, every safe place I'd ever known, all blended together seamlessly. The walls were soft, like breathing. The light came from everywhere and nowhere. We walked for what felt like hours, or minutes. Time had stopped mattering. Eventually we came to a room I didn't recognize. It was small and bright, with a single window looking out over a forest that went on forever. There was a bed with clean white sheets, a desk with a laptop still open to a half-written story, a mug of tea steaming gently though no one had made it. On the wall hung a photograph. It was me, the old me, standing on the porch of my rental house in Blackwood. The paint was fresh. The porch didn't sag. I was smiling at the camera with eyes that were tired but still mine. Underneath, in handwriting I recognized as my mother's, someone had written, "In loving memory of Faith Nichols, 1995 to 2025. She fought bravely. She is resting now." I stared at it for a long time. "That's not fair," I said. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. The new Faith put her arm around my shoulders. "None of this is fair," she said. "But it's finished. You're safe here. Nothing can hurt you anymore." I wanted to argue. Wanted to scream. Wanted to tear the photograph off the wall and smash it. Instead I started crying again, but these tears felt different. Lighter. Like the last of something poisonous leaving my body. She led me to the bed and tucked me in the way my mom used to when I had nightmares as a kid. Pulled the blanket up to my chin. Smoothed my hair back. "Sleep," she whispered. "Real sleep. The kind that doesn't end." I closed my eyes. And for the first time in weeks, there was no water. No whispering. No bruises blooming under my skin like dark flowers. Just darkness. Soft, warm, endless darkness. And the faintest sound, like someone far away, on the other side of a thick wall, locking a door behind them. Click. When the cleaning crew found my body the next morning, they said I looked peaceful. Like I just sat down for a rest and slipped away. Natural causes, the coroner ruled. Heart failure due to extreme exhaustion. No drugs in my system. No signs of struggle. They called my mother. She identified the body. She cried, but not as hard as people expected. She kept saying, over and over, "She finally got some rest. Thank God she finally got some rest." My funeral was small. The house in Blackwood sold quickly. Some couple from Portland wanted a fixer-upper with good bones. They painted over the water stain in the bedroom. Replaced the warped floorboards. Hung new curtains. Sometimes, late at night, they say they hear whispering in the walls. Soft. Happy. Like someone telling a bedtime story to an empty room. Sometimes their bathroom mirror fogs up on its own, and words appear. Sweet dreams. But they laugh it off. Old houses creak. Pipes do weird things. They sleep fine. They sleep very, very well. And somewhere else, somewhere quiet and warm and far away, the real Faith Nichols is sleeping too. She doesn't dream anymore. She doesn't need to.